Are you searching for the perfect love? You can't purchase it, you perfect love. Don't be searching for the perfect love unless the lane you searching for someone inside yourself.
Welcome to Women in Hip Hop Wednesdays. I'm your host, your music midwife and nerdy hip hop homegirl, Coco Peila. I'm a multi-hyphenate hip hop artist, singer, songwriter, MC, record producer, songwriting coach, and the MC is definitely the part that qualifies me. It's one of the parts that qualifies me to take you on this journey. Happy Women's History Month. This episode, we are talking about the making of the Pretty Girls music video and initiative and the intention behind the piece. So this is the making of Pretty Girls. I hope you enjoy. Last month we did Breaking Down Perfect Love, and this month we are breaking down Pretty Girls. So Pretty Girls is a song that I released in 2021, and I released it as a part of a initiative called the Pretty Heist. I wanted to address anti-Black racism and sexism and lookism and colorism and all the issues that we come up against as Black women, the ways that we are picked apart from our hair texture to our body shape to our skin color to our size to like all the things, our phenotype. And it was really important to me to have an anthem for Black women and girls that when we put it on the song, when the song is played, that Black women and girls would really feel like they're being celebrated. A few little pieces of context and backstory. One, it was interesting filming this. It took about 3 years to film the music video. And one of the things that took a long time is that initially I thought maybe we'll have like 5 or 6 different Black women and girls in the video, right? And as we were gathering different footage, Busa Tatpaporn was the cinematographer who did an incredible job and also directed it. We did it together, and she really helped me bring the vision to life. Brennan King edited it, and also Tay from the Trap Factory in Maryland, down in the DMV, also filmed. So the three of them, between Oakland, Berkeley, the Yuba River, that's all in California, Northern California, and then out in Washington, D.C., picked up different pieces. So Busa and I shot a bunch of it up at the Yuba River, a lot of like solo pieces with me, in a way, unmasking. So we went up there multiple times and filmed me with different types of hair and with mirrors. And there's a lot of like imagery. So I definitely, if you've never seen the music video before, I definitely encourage you to, because it was a part of the initiative did I already tell y'all Happy Women's History Month? Happy Women's History Month. Or for me, don't be mad, but I call February through the end of March. February 1 through March 31st is Black Girl Magic season. It is what it is. It's Black History Month, then it's Women's History Month. So for Black women, it's our history for 2 months. And I love it. I love it here. So anyway, Happy Women's History Month. There's so many things for us to be excited about, proud about, so many victories. We've taken L's, but we also have a lot of W's. And I think that especially during this time where, under fascism, let's just cut straight to the point. We can't be mincing words. Under fascism and authoritarian governments, right? There's a lot of censorship. We talked about censorship actually, I believe, in last week's episode, which was when we read God Save the Queens, The Essential History of Women in Hip Hop by Kathy Yandeli, chapter 5, A New Day. And it talked about MC Light and Salt and Pepper. And we talked about the battle between MC Light and Antoinette. If you haven't seen that episode, go back to it. But there was a lot of talk about the transition between Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush and that era of the 80s into the 90s where, you know, hip hop was getting attacked for being sexually explicit, inappropriate, influencing children to act out sexually. And I find this to be, I was actually posting this on, was it Threads? Somewhere on social media, I was talking about it. I find this to be such an interesting concept, or rather, an interesting phenomenon that actually within the US government was attempting to censor hip hop. And a lot focused on censoring women in hip hop to not rap about sexually explicit lyrics. You have these grown men and folks in government attacking younger women for their self-expression within hip hop. And meanwhile, especially right now with what's coming to light with the Epstein files, right? And with, you know, a PDF in the White House as the president. Y'all know what a PDF is, right? Look it up. But it's not actually a laughing matter. I'm laughing because I think sometimes when something is really painful, you laugh about it first before you can cry. It's like when a muscle is so tight, it tickles when you try to stretch it out and when you try to massage it. And then once you get like that initial tension out, now you can feel the pain. I think that's the laughter. It's more like it's so painful and heartbreaking and gruesome and unacceptable. But what I wanted to draw your attention to real quick before we get into breaking down Pretty Girls is this. It is not just, I don't think it's a phenomenon. The better word for it would be it's hypocritical that the US government was attempting to censor young Black women from expressing or writing about sex or sexual expression, and also scapegoating hip hop, not just women, but also men as well, scapegoating hip hop for influencing our young people to be overly sexual. Meanwhile, the 1980s, these Epstein files, they talk about things that happened over a long period of time. And we know that the human trafficking, which is, this country is based on human trafficking. We talked about that last month. You know, enforced servitude, AKA the institution of slavery, at least as we know it in the Americas, transporting people against their will, that's human trafficking. Transporting humans with the specific intention to sexually exploit them is sexual trafficking, right? So it is the foundation of how this country was built and dreamed up. And I say country, not the land, because there were people, indigenous people living on this land, with this land, stewarding the land, with thriving communities long before this country, the United States, or the different countries throughout the Americas were colonized and taken over. So why am I talking about all of this? Because I think it's always important, right? We're talking about Women's History Month. Hip hop history, coming out of Black History Month, hip hop history is Black history, and hip hop history is women's history. Hip hop is now over 50 years old, okay? She's been around. She's an official elder, baby. So she has a history, and she also has roots in music and movement and culture from long before hip hop's birth, right? And so it's a part of women's history. And so when we look at what was happening with freedom of speech and with the expression, free speech within hip hop, and we look at how it was attacked and how it was scapegoated and blamed for this over sexualization, that it's going to influence our children. But meanwhile, the same people that are pointing the fingers, right, have this whole human trafficking ring, happening, because we know that the human trafficking, this is a part of, it's a part of white supremacy. It's a part of sexism. It's a part of empire and imperialism. This is something that has roots way back. We talked a little bit about that. I am not a historian. These are not by no means the complete and total, it's not the complete, fully complex analysis of it, right? But what I can do for you all oftentimes is paint the broad strokes, at least of how I'm looking at it from my side of the conversation, and ask you for your response, and so that we can learn and exchange information and paint that full picture of reality, and share. So I'm just looking at this as a hip hop head and as a hip hop scholar who's studying the history and who loves the culture and who is a practitioner of the culture. And I'm like, wow, that's many. Like, that's hella many, because here we have, I even saw some footage of Lil' Kim, and Kim, I don't even know if Kim was like 18 yet. Kim might have been just 18 or was 17. And she was being brought up on all these talk shows and blamed for, all these things. And it's like, she has her own journey and she made her own choices about what she spoke about. By the way, I love Lil' Kim. But why are y'all scapegoating a young Black woman? But meanwhile, there's all this shady stuff happening with primarily owning class and powerful. I say powerful in quotes because, to me, if you're using your power to harm others or to oppress others, it's not true power. To me, divine power is when you become a vessel for love, for healing, for elevation, for goodness, for sharing, for connection, for community. To me, that's power. But these powerful, a lot of them white men, right, actually doing heinous, just heartbreaking, atrocious, violent crimes, and a lot to women and girls, and a lot that had, sexual nature and sexual violence. And so I just think it's something that we need to think about and reflect on. And again, this whole piece comes from, it's Women's History Month, and right now we're living under fascism, under an authoritarian government, one that's really trying to swing their way towards high-level authoritarianism. I guess it's already there, but who wants to rewrite history? Who doesn't want us to read books, want to ban books, want to defund libraries, and, take certain education and history, Black history, women's history, certain words out of language, make them no words. It's like us looking back at history and comparing and seeing what was going on, what was being projected in the media versus what was actually going on behind the scenes, how the media was used to attack very powerful cultures and art forms such as hip hop. It's important for us to look back in order to move forward and inform ourselves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, hey. So these prints right here in this room, on my lap, next to me, behind me, these are the last ones that I have. There are about 60 of these prints left. Once they sell out, we are not reprinting these colors, and we're not reprinting the prints because it's some other things in the mix. So I want to make sure that if you want one of these gorgeous prints and the song download that comes with it and the extra secret song download, you have to watch all the March episodes of the Women in Hip Hop Wednesdays podcast to know that there's a little secret goodie specifically only for March that's going to be thrown in with these March prints. But here's the really exciting news. I am throwing a listening party for my next album, Confessions of a Black Feminist Rapper, Part 2, Trigger Warning, right here in New York City live on the 21st of March from 2 to 5 p.m. And hold up, West Coast, Bay Area people don't come for me. Outside of the US, worldwide, don't come for me because we're also live streaming globally online. So anyone who wants to come to this event, you can either grab that in-person ticket. Now there are only 45 tickets left for the in-person event. So I would suggest you get on that ASAPatory. And then for online, I also would suggest you get on that ASAPatory. You can go to cocopeila.com/altars, ALTARS, to get your ticket. And here's the cool thing. When you get a full package ticket, you get this print, the song downloads, and the ticket to the listening party. And then after we listen to the cuts, after we listen to the sounds of DJ KK on the ones and twos, I'm gonna offer a special altar making workshop. This event is called Altars for Our Inner Children because the album, for those of you who don't know, is about it's a love letter to my inner child. It's about growing up, it's about being a survivor, and it's about connecting the dots and doing the healing work. And so just like I put my inner child on the album art, as a visual altar for the sonic altars that are on the album, I want to provide some altar making supplies and a workshop for y'all to take a picture of little you. And well, I can't give you all the tea. You just got to come to the event. So anyway, go to cocopeila.com/altars. This event is literally my birthday gathering. I haven't done an official birthday gathering, and I really wanted to be bold and courageous and share some of the unheard cuts from the album with y'all. So I will see you there. And for y'all who want that live, that in-person ticket, snatch that shit up ASAP. All right, peace. So for me, it was really important to portray Black women and girls in many different ways. And what I noticed while we were filming Pretty Girls was each time we would get like, 3 to 5 cameos, I'd be like, oh my God, this is so powerful. She's so wonderful. She's gorgeous. Like, but then I'd be like, but that's not enough representation. Like, we need a tall Black woman. We need a large Black woman. We need, a young Black woman. We need Black women who are presenting in a certain way. We need queer Black women. We need straight Black women. We need moms. We need elders. We need, my point with Pretty Girls, because to me, Black women, because of anti-Black racism and lookism and white supremacy, which says like, white is the best, white is the smartest, white is the prettiest, it's the most beautiful, it's the most powerful, it's the ideal, it's what we should all be striving for. A lot of Black women and girls, no matter how they look, don't grow up being called pretty. Now, there's another piece to that, right? Because being objectified as pretty is a different journey. And under sexism, that's not a safe place either. So mind you, I'm understanding that, but I'm somebody who didn't grow up being called pretty. And who didn't grow up with the identity of being a pretty girl. And I don't necessarily subscribe to we should be running around calling Black girls pretty girls just because the word pretty is so loaded. So me choosing to call the song Pretty Girls and the initiative, the Pretty Heist, there was a reason, there was an intention behind it. And it was to disrupt and to resist the white supremacy and the sexism, the anti-Black racism that gets targeted at Black women. And it comes in immediately, first and foremost, it comes in on how we look. It comes in on our bodies, because how we looked and our bodies were the pretext for a lot of the oppression that got targeted at us, right? Like, when we look at anti-Black racism in the Americas and a lot of the propaganda that was created to justify so I don't even like to call it like the transatlantic slave trade, because it makes it sound like an industry that didn't involve like millions of people being transported in inhumane conditions in ships across the ocean, many of who didn't make it. So, I'm going to continue reading and listening and learning so we can continue to talk about this in a way that actually humanizes all of our ancestors and our people who went through this horrific life-altering and limiting experience. One of the things is that if we even just think about the idea of people forcing through threat of violence and the threat of violence and manipulation and brainwashing, and also just literally taking someone from the land where they know and have family, to a new land where they don't speak the language and they don't know the land and all that. That's another form of domination. But I'm just thinking about just the experience of being put on an auction block. And it's Women's History Month. So I'm thinking about Black women and girls and the experience of, and our brothers and our folks who don't identify as women or men, this experience of being put on an auction block and people scrutinizing your body, scrutinizing your skin, scrutinizing the size of your breasts or your butt or your thighs or your legs. Oh, this one has strong legs, or this, that, and the third. That absolutely traumatized us. It's something that's been passed down through generations as intergenerational trauma. And just even the ways that the white supremacy had to be propped up so that all this propaganda was made and put out that Black women and girls were not as beautiful or, as attractive or as desirable, which we know was just literally made up. Like every Black woman and girl, no matter what she looks like or what her ability is, how she presents, who she sleeps with, how she identifies, she's perfect just the way she is. And that was my intention and my desire behind Pretty Girls, was just wanting to say, without saying, but I guess I did say it in the lyrics too, that you are perfect just the way you are, whatever color you are, whatever hair texture pattern you have, whatever phenotype, whatever part of Africa that your ancestors are repping on your face and body, like the way that you look, the ancestral face card or imprint that you're rocking, it's perfect. It's perfect. And this idea of beauty and ugly and attractive and unattractive and desirable and undesirable is all a part of systemic oppression. And there's more to be said about that too, right? Because if the club is called Pretty, in order for the club to be popping, right? For marketing, for the club to be popping, you got to have an outside of the club and an inside of the club. So for women, if everybody's trying to get into Club Pretty, well, to make it hot, you have to have an in crowd who gets to make it into the club. Y'all following me? Am I getting a little too like waxing poetical, a little too much with it? Okay, so every single aspect of systemic oppression, especially the aspects of sexism that are trivialized, like why are girls so obsessed with how they look? They're so shallow, right? It's not that simple. How we look and how we are perceived as girls up to women to elder women directly impacts our access to resource, our access to different institutions. And if you think about it, the history of women, women who were not perceived as desirable or who didn't have access to maybe the institution of marriage or relationships often were ostracized and pushed to the edges. The fray, I think is the word, the fringe, my bad, I'm talking the fray of society, right? Women who live on the fringe of society often are forced to do black market labor. So labor like sex labor, drug labor, that kind of thing, illegal labor. So when we're talking about why is she tripping off how her hair looks or whether or not she's pretty or why are women, why is the internalized sexism making women compete with each other, or why is it so important to be the prettiest one in the room, or so on and so forth. There is actually like a long history predating this moment, and it's not shallow at all. So this song Pretty Girls was a way to contemporarily address it, right? So sometimes resistance looks like writing an anthem that contradicts the messages of the oppression. So, okay, in the hierarchy of racism, Black people are at the bottom and Black women are at the bottom, and they're supposed to be the most undesirable, the most unmarriable, like the ones that can't make it in the club unless they do all these things to alter the way that they look, blah, 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 blah. So to me, making an anthem that says you're perfect just the way you are, however you look, you good. And guess what? You may look this way, you may be this tall, this short, this wide, this thin. No matter how you look, you're good, you're beautiful, you're wonderful. To me, this is my personal opinion, you're a child of God, right? And so there's no way you could not be perfect. At the end of the music video shoot, when we finally edited everything, there were, I think, 30 or 31 different Black women and girls between the ages of, I believe it was like 6 months and like 60 years old. And there were so many different representations of Black African heritage women and girls. And that, at the end of the process, I had to eventually just be like, all right, I'm an independent artist. You know, the director, cinematographer, like editor, like all these folks who are collaborating with me and sharing their time and energy and creativity, like I don't have the budget to have like 200 different, Black women and girls, but I have, the budget for this. And I remember at the time having the vision and being like, am I doing too much? Kind of doubting myself or doubting the vision. Maybe it's not as significant as I'm making it out to be. Like maybe I'm, And I remember when I released the music video, released the song, and started doing the initiative, which included like interviews with different Black women and girls about Black women and girls and the beautification industry and racism and what was it like encountering like beauty standards or beautification, all the different things, racism as a Black girl to present. And we had like different photos of the women and we got to feature them and the different types of like art or community organizing or work that they did, and had a call to action for people to like tap in with them and fund what they got going and all that. I remember that I knew how dangerous and significant of a statement the music video and the song was, because a white female relative of mine told me that it was divisive, that the music video was divisive, that the song was divisive, and that the initiative was divisive because it did not include white women and girls in it. And she went as far as bringing up Adolf Hitler and his regime and his movement, and saying, part of that movement was about dividing people and separating them out between races and so on and so forth. And I think she even brought up Trump. And I just knew, I told her, I said, listen, I think you're uncomfortable because you are a white woman and you are used to you as a white woman being centered. You're used to being centered. You're used to you as the beauty standard being centered. And I think that this shakes up that the white supremacy and the anti-Black racism and sexism and the privilege that you experience as a white woman around beauty and beauty standards. And I think this is making you feel uncomfortable because I am centering Black women and girls. Yes, only Black women and girls. I'm not saying I don't want freedom and liberation for all women and girls, but in order for all of us to be free, there can't be a group of us that gets to be stepped on and told that we're not good enough and we're not pretty enough and we're not right the way that we are. Now, if we choose to express our hair or our nails or whatever in a certain way, that's one thing. But for us to have to change in order to get good paying jobs, in order for people to respect us, in order for people to take us serious or say that we're professional or that we're pretty or that we're marriage material or wifey material, or whatever the case may be, we're polished, we're clean enough, our face card never gets declined. No, I'm not having that. That's bullshit. It's sexism, it's racism, and it's not right. It's anti-Blackness, it's white supremacy. No, no, no. It's classism. No. And so when we had that conversation, it was very heartbreaking for me. I'm not gonna lie, especially coming from a family member who, I love. And it's like, okay, I would think like we're women. So more than anything, you should understand as women, we're comrades, right? And this isn't to throw her under the bus, but just to say that I knew in that moment, yup, this is some dangerous shit. When a Black woman or girl centers herself in any way, I'm talking about in hip hop, visibly centers herself, puts her mind out there, or even says, you know what, I am worthy, I come first, I am beautiful, I am good, she absolutely is disrupting the systems of oppression. And that white family member was not the only one. There were other people, friends, or other people in my life that were not Black that were like, well, what about other women of other races? Why not all women? Why not all women? Because I, as someone born in 1987 who came up in the 90s, guess what? Black women were not portrayed. I remember being so thirsty to see a Black woman on some type of screen. I was like, that next episode of Love and Hip Hop, like, I can't wait till it comes out because I just want to see us. I just want to see us, like, and so that was like the intention behind Pretty Girls, and behind making sure that there were like a lot of different versions of us being represented. And I still find it to be such a powerful piece. I'm so grateful to every single woman who did a cameo, who collaborated, to my collaborators as well, the director, the cinematographer, the editors, everyone. Like it was an amazing experience for me, a lot of learning. I would love to do an episode and like open up some, because I had a lot of mistakes that I made and like big lessons I learned behind the scenes. But yeah, that is the making of Pretty Girls. And I guess like the behind the scenes, behind the vision, intention of the Pretty Girls music video